All right, we're here for the Mikey Man and Randy show on our forensics rehabilitation. We're, last week I noticed I'd be talking, you'd be over there going in the background. I don't know what that's about. I'll have to try to remember to do that. We're here at the construction site of the new Auburn Student Union. Yeah, that way. It's just a historic occasion. But we're talking not about the construction, we're actually talking about jobs and what that means in the context of Social Security. So for you forensic bozos out there that want to know something about Social Security, which is something worth knowing about, you can make a lot of money there, that's what we're talking about.
And this is where injuries occur, like right over there.
Where?
Right there.
Look at that. Look at that guy falling. Oh, no, he's falling.
Oh, we got it on video.
Oh, we got it on video. All right.
How much is this video going to be worth?
Sorry, I'll be back later. I've got to go talk to him about some vocational expert works.
Bye.
Oh, not really. One of the things I like about Social Security, Mike, is that it doesn't pay a lot, but they pay. It's always
they
good.
Don't.
They don't pay.
They pay you. They don't pay
That's
me.
right. They don't pay you. Well, normally they pay, and the thing is, it's the government, so you can count on getting your money on a regular basis. Generally, that's one good thing about it, right?
That is, very much. And the other, I mean, along the lines of pay, I mean, it's not bad pay. It's, I would say that it usually ranges $300 to $600 a day on average.
Okay.
And there's no paperwork. I mean, no reports or anything like that. So I mean, I like that.
That's a big plus.
And almost, I mean, to a person, I think when you talk to them about doing Social Security work, when they first do it, they're uptight and all that. But then after you do it a few times, you don't have to really prepare much, and there's no anxiety. So it's a low anxiety type job.
One of our doc students tells me that the other part that he likes about it is it's kind of good practice for real work, for being in a workers' comp or in a regular courtroom, because it's not as adversarial, but you do get asked a lot of questions, so it keeps you sharp on the vocational questions.
In fact, that's one of the things when people talk to me about doing vocational expert work is I always say to them the first thing they should do is Social Security work, because because part of the deal is just learning how to listen to a question and then answer.
Okay.
And that's hard for most of us, because we want to pontificate, or
right.
We want to answer questions that we think people are asking us rather than what they're actually asking us. And Social Security is good training for that. It's good training for the lowest level of adversarial setting, unless you've been married for a while.
Yeah.
And then
you're quite used to it, probably.
Yeah, you're used to it.
Yeah. You've been called every name in the book, and that's just at home.
That's at home.
Yeah.
I don't want to get treated that way. I just go home.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. I got it.
But it's fun. The other thing about it is there's an informal feedback loop where you can learn, in between hearings or at lunch or something like that, from multiple sources, the quality of your testimony, and I think that's helpful.
That is helpful. One of the things that happens at Social Security for us that doesn't happen other places, we go to lunch with the judges.
Exactly.
So it's not like, actually we're hired by the judges, so it's not like we're a foreign entity. I mean, we're part of their system. So, of course, I guess in that respect, we probably give them the testimony they want to hear, whether it's true or not. Is that right?
Well, I mean, that's what we're.
What
we're supposed to do is give them objective testimony, regardless of what we would think their leanings are.
Okay.
And sometimes that's easier than other times. But I agree with you. When you go to lunch with them, there's two things you find out. One is you can find out what their impressions are of a person. And you might not think a person's terribly disabled. You go to lunch and the judge might think that they are, and it gives you an opportunity to talk to them about why they think that. Or you might think somebody's terribly disabled,
right,
and the judge might say that they're blowing smoke, and find out why. And it helps, for me anyway, it's really helped me to understand sort of critical analysis of cases, and to be more objective about them than I used to be, and to realize that what I see is not what other people always see, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, that always happens in open court, circuit court, or whatever, is that you don't know the outcome of the case. All they let you come in for is your part of testimony, but at Social Security you're there for the whole deal, and then often you talk about it afterwards, after the claimant leaves and the attorneys leave, and you can get a feel for how the judge might decide. Or they may ask you what to decide. Which, of course, I'm never shy about telling them how to do their job, even though they're getting paid for it.
There are some judges. For example, Dr. McDaniel and I both work primarily out of the Montgomery Office of Disability Adjudication and Review.
ODAR?
Is that what it stands for?
Or ODAR?
ODAR?
Office of something like that.
It used to be OH, Office of Hearings and Appeals. Now it's ODARS, and I'm not sure what it means. But in that office, some of the judges are more formal than others. Technically, the judges aren't supposed to tell you what it's supposed to be a confidential finding. So one of the things I'll do after a hearing is if I really want to know and the judge is not volunteering, I'll say, I'll just say, well, I'm not trying to influence your decision on this, but I kind of saw this person as being this way or that, and usually they'll tell you what their thinking is.
Right.
And sometimes they'll. But the other part about it too is not just about the case. That might open the door for them to say, well, your testimony was really baffling to me, and if you get something like that, it's an opportunity to shape your testimony a little bit. I mean, not your opinions necessarily, but the
way you say it.
Yeah,
exactly. I've had actually several cases that were sent back on appeal, and they were sent back because of something I said in my testimony. For example,
I've never had that happen to me.
That probably never happened to you. I see a lot of your cases that come back on appeal. They're wondering what kind of a vocational expert would say this. One of them I remember very well, though, was I used the word maybe. I said, well, maybe he could do something. And they appealed it, sent it back, and said the secretary or commissioner can't make their decision on maybe. So what I learned out of that was, when you're in court, to be definitive, whether it's true or not, sound like it's true. Be definitive.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Well, we've got the medical experts I've seen have more trouble with that particular thing. The psychologists,
right?
A lot of times they'll say, well, we really don't know until the person's been in therapy for a year or something like that. And you really can't give that kind of testimony. You're there to render an opinion. If you could just listen to the question, and if the question doesn't direct you to consider the claimant, but just the documents, then that's all you do. It's a really nice thing, and you have to trust the system to believe that the system's going to work one way or the other, and that it doesn't rest just on your testimony. And that takes a lot of pressure.
It doesn't. I didn't know that. I thought what I said is that made the decision. Oh my God, I'm crushed. Okay. This is true about all testimony. If everybody does their job, if the attorney for both sides do their job, if the judge does their job, if the experts do their job, a good decision will come out of that. It's when people fall down that things don't go right.
Exactly.
And I think that's very true of Social Security. If you do your job and give good, straight testimony, probably a good decision will be made. And of course, the way that is, some decisions you never know if they're right or not. The judge will decide, and they don't know, you don't know. You just hope that your rights outnumber your wrongs, basically.
Yeah, there's a judge in Montgomery, for example, that almost never pay cases or grants disability. That's just sort of his bias.
Yeah.
And if you know that going in, which we do, I don't even try to influence him. I just give my testimony because I know that a lot of those decisions will end up being remanded or appealed, and they'll come back around.
Right.
And it's, you can be sympathetic to the claimant that it's going to take them another year to get through their case or something like that, especially the legitimate cases. But that's the way the system works, and I have to separate myself emotionally from the decisions. Now, I have a more difficult time separating myself from the decisions in worker comp and personal injury cases.
Right.
Social Security cases, I separate myself because it's the agency is such a big animal that you'll burn out in short order if you let your emotions rest on the way the cases go. You just can't do it.
Well, just talking about how big they are, our local office has been running a backlog of almost 5,000 cases. So, that's a tremendous number that they're trying to deal with and get processed through their system. The part of that for us vocational experts is you don't get any time with the people. When you go, you don't. It's not that you've evaluated them, you haven't seen them before. You do a paper evaluation, then you answer the questions.
You review the file, listen to the testimony, and normally what will happen is that the judge will ask you to consider some of the exhibits. Exhibits meaning medical records or functional capacity evaluations or something that speak to functional limitations one way or the other. Sometimes they'll ask you to consider each one individually. Sometimes they'll combine them, but they'll direct you to look to those exhibits. And then at the end of the hearing, normally they'll ask you to consider the claimant's testimony and whether or not their testimony makes them disabled. And the answer to that's almost always yes. Otherwise, they wouldn't be filing a claim for disability. But there are times where the claimants come in and they don't, just in the nature of their testimony, don't prove disability. And so just listen to the questions. It's really a good drill.
Well, let's look at Social Security in general and how the disability system works. Basically, you are getting your retirement Social Security. If you've paid in quarters, you're getting that money early because you can't work. So in terms of the kind of work you can do, it really doesn't matter, does it?
You mean
if you can work, it doesn't matter what
well,
it is.
Yeah, it does when you reach a certain age. I mean,
okay.
The older you get. Last week we talked a little bit about suitability of employment and worker comp.
Yep.
Social Security has a similar standard, but they do it by age for the most part. And the older you get, the Social Security has a regulation that says you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
That's about right, isn't it?
Yeah. So the older you get, what they have to show for you not to be disabled is that you can't do what you used to do, a job that you used to do. So if you were a truck driver for 20 years, then you're advanced age or approaching advanced age, let's say you're in your 50s somewhere, and they do 5-year intervals. Like if you're at 45, you're a younger individual. 50, you're closely approaching advanced age. 55, advanced age. 60, you're older than dirt.
Older than dirt, yeah. And what that means, that advanced age means advanced working age. It's not that you're advanced age, it's advanced working. And they're talking about going up on that, by the way.
They
talking about bumping that up because people are working longer.
Yeah, longevity.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
But so if they say that if you've only been a truck driver and you're, say, 55 years old, you can no longer be a truck driver, the agency's going to find you disabled because, as I said, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's their standard.
Right.
They're going to look at the last 15 years of work history and try to put you back into something like that, especially if you're at advanced age. If you're 45 or younger, any job will do.
Right. Doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
So basically, it's easier to get on Social Security disability the older you are. Once you pass 49, it's much, much easier.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they're a process where people are coming in and saying, I can't work. Although we get some come in and say, I can't work, and they're working, so it doesn't make sense. But they're saying, I can't work, and I need my disability money. But that's their standard generally, is that you can't do much of anything. You can't work.
Yeah, and another part of thinking about the benefit, I'm just spontaneously going here.
Yeah, I see. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
you mostly were watching this.
It's a hammering in the studio.
And the studio, you mostly were watching that girl that went by in the bikini and shorts, but distracted. His brain went to mush. I'm sorry. He can't think. He can't think anymore.
It's all yours now. Wait, come back. But the other thing, if you're wanting to set up a forensic practice, this is something we did not mention. It's really the biggest thing is be sure to take business cards with you to a hearing, because you can pick up marketing contacts just by handing out your business card to lawyers representing the claimants.
Right.
And they'll send business to you, because most lawyers that do Social Security are also going to do comp and personal injury.
Right.
And so that's a way to get a network of contacts started.
I mean, the advantage of it, all those people you see on TV that say, I can get you your disability, you get to know those people really well. I mean, that's a great advantage. So, you see them on TV and say, oh, I know them.
But you really don't want to know them.
What a jerk. I wouldn't go to that person for all the money in the world. Get back. Keep your hand out of my pocket. Nah, there's some good people that do that. But you're exactly right. And the other thing that's happened for me, and it may have happened to you, I doubt it, is occasionally you get interrogatories either from the judge, or I did some recently for an attorney who was appealing a case, and he wanted a vocational opinion written, and he gave me the hypothetical situation, and I just wrote it out. And, I made $300 or $400. It wasn't great money, but I made a little money for not a whole lot of work. Actually, that's what most of this is. This is pretty much what this is about, isn't it? Yeah. A lot of money and not much work. That's why I wanted to go into it. I said, I saw McClanahan was doing it, and I said, can't be much to it. I can do it.
Anybody can do that.
Anybody can handle that. Go back on your, here comes a
Oh, it's the Burger King guy.
It's a Burger King guy is riding his bicycle. Either that or somebody soliciting for a church. I'm not sure which. Go back on the idea of getting ready for a Social Security case. You mentioned when you first started that it was harder, and now it's not so hard.
Yeah.
What do you do now, and what did you do then?
Well, what I do now, and I'm going to say this to say to you that you're, or to folks that are getting into doing it. It doesn't start this way, but the way now I just go the day of the hearing. I'll usually show up too late, but if I get there about 30 minutes ahead of time, generally I can review a file in 5 to 10 minutes now.
Yeah, I can too.
And I mean, there's some that are more cumbersome, but I'd say 5-10 minutes. I know everything I need to do.
Right.
No, because once you understand the file and what you're looking for, you want the work history and anything that has anything to do with functional limitations, and that's it.
Yeah, this is certainly quality work, isn't it?
Yeah.
5 to 10 minutes. You're reviewing a whole person's getting disability. 5-10 minutes. All I need to tell you. Whatever.
So, but you can review the file and do that, so you can classify their work and then respond to questions.
Right. What are you reviewing for? What do you have to do?
Well, I mean, what I'm looking for when I get the file is the first thing I do is look at the work history and the age and education, because then I'm going to know what kind of the issues are going to be. Okay. And then I'll go. The files are. They've got different sections and all. Age. Education. Oh, that's what. No, I don't do all that. No, but you should. I mean, you should know the age, education. Yeah. The thing is that the education level that's referenced in the file a lot of times will change, and I'm not really sure why that is. But sometimes either the people self-report a grade level that they didn't achieve, or somebody in the agency sticks it in there. But a lot of times that changes. Right. The educational level. Right. But you look at their work history, and then you classify their work history for the past 15 years as to whether or not their work history is unskilled, semi-skilled, or skilled. Okay. And then you also would look at the exertional level. And that's based on skilled, unskilled, so that's all based on the specific vocational preparation, SVP level of their job, that you get that out of the DOT or out of the DOT information. Exactly. Yeah, all those resources. And I mean, just a rule of thumb is if the average worker would take longer than a month to learn the job, then that's going to be either semi-skilled or skilled work. And one of the things that like, let's see, we got, if you can see some of those. You got some iron workers up there, and probably iron worker helpers. And the iron worker is going to be skilled work. The helpers are just going to be unskilled. They're probably both going to be heavy work, although in union settings, the skilled workers usually don't have to lift as much. So a lot of times an iron worker in a skilled setting might be a medium job or something like that. So you classify the job. So you have to tell if it's skilled, unskilled, whatever it is. Right. And the reason for that is so that you look at transferable skills to other lighter work. Correct. So that's one thing you have to tell them. That's one of your expertise areas. Right. And then exertional levels. Okay. And that has to do with strength, lifting, whatever. Pulling, pushing, all that kind of stuff. Carrying. Yeah. And so anything, if they have to routinely lift more than 50 pounds, that's going to be heavy work. Okay. 20 to 50 pounds is going to be medium. 20 or less is going to be sedentary or light. Okay. All right. And just, So you give that information on all the past jobs they've done in the last 15 years? Correct. Right. That's right. All right. So you got to know that to be able to look and classify. So one thing you're looking for is the jobs, age, education level. What else you look for? Exhibits. What else? Then you look in the medical exhibits for the functional limitations. I had to cue in because ask these questions kind of hard for him. I use big words. Exhibit. I got arrested for that one time, but charges didn't stick. She wouldn't press charges, but that's another story. Didn't hold up in court. Sorry. All right. Where were we? Oh, exhibits. Explain about the exhibits. So when you look at the exhibits... No, don't demonstrate. Just explain. When you look at the exhibit, what you're looking for are functional limitations. Okay. Anything that has functional limitations, that's going to be a checklist or anything that has to do with either mental or physical traits. Sometimes you'll find it in narratives, but once you've kind of gotten to where you know these files and kind of know what you're looking for, the forms... you can almost just rifle your hand through the file and it'll pop open. But so that so let's say that if the person let's go to the iron worker.
Okay.
Let's say if he's an iron worker and it's heavy work and skilled, well, that's the way you would report it.
Okay.
But you might have a guy that was an iron worker, and as he reports his own work history, he might have been a supervisor, and he might say that he only had to lift, 30 or 40 pounds. So it'd be medium work.
Right. So you classify it by what they say about themselves or by what the DOT says about them?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
As performed and as it's typically performed in the national economy.
Okay. Are you ever asked for DOT numbers? Dictionary of Occupational Title numbers?
There are judges that ask for DOT numbers,
Okay.
and you can give that if you want to, or
You make those up as you go?
or you just throw them out. And, yeah.
Well, one thing about being a vocational expert, I don't care what setting it is, hopefully you know more than the people asking the questions, right?
Well, you're supposed to.
You're supposed to. So you always figure whatever answer you give, there's not going to be hardly anybody in the courtroom that moment that's going to challenge you.
But in the event that you don't know more than the people that are asking
Which
the
can
questions,
happen.
which
Now,
does
that
happen,
can happen.
don't be afraid to correct yourself. I mean, I had one of
yeah.
my early experiences, and I should admit this, but it's been more than 10 years ago. I classified
So what? So what?
I classified a sewing machine job as sedentary.
Sedentary,
Yeah.
because they sit all day.
They sit all day.
Right.
And she
Wrongo,
she
Mikey man.
didn't lift more than 10 pounds. And
Gong.
so why would it be light?
I know. Pick me. I know the answer to that.
Okay.
Because it has significant use of hand or foot controls, which makes it a light job.
So anything where you're using your feet or legs, leg controls, any
Right.
driving, it has to be at least light.
Right.
Even if you sit all day, if you're using your feet,
Right.
it's got to be at least light.
Right. If you've had the occupation information course, you know that. You know that. If you haven't, though, I understand. Well, you might not. But anyway, okay, so you made a bad error there, and 10 years later, you're trying to still straighten it out.
Yeah, but I mean, you just said, you're going to make mistakes. It's a volume business. That's one of the things we didn't really talk about is that normally there will be somewhere between 4 and 7 or 8 cases that we'll hear in the course of a day.
Right.
And so you're really wanting to crank them out. What you have to realize is that even though this is their hearing, a lot of hands have been in this file. I mean, it's been looked at by judges, writers, lawyers, all this kind of stuff. And so this is just the very end of the process. So some judges a hearing go 30 minutes, 15, 30 minutes. I mean, it just depends on the nature of the disability and the judge and all that. Others will go hour and a half. But and even the long hearings, you're still going to go 4 or 5 hearings in a day. It's and sometimes a lot more. I've had as many as, I think, 10. Is the most I've had in a day.
Yeah, that's a lot of hearings in one day. But
but it pays better because you get paid per case.
So we get, and what's nice about it, we get paid whether the person shows up. If it's scheduled and we show up and the judge is there, we're going to get paid.
That's a cool thing.
That's
and
a cool
if
thing.
they don't cancel it within 24 hours. So
right, they let us know within 24 hours. Then they don't have to pay us. Although there's some provision if you show up and and they don't cancel in a certain amount of time, you get an appearance fee, so you get part of it, or a study fee. Maybe it's a study fee. That's what.
Yeah.
So the pay rate, and to show you the difference in this, the pay rate on this is $110 for us for the first case, $75 for other cases. So if you saw 10 cases, so I don't know what that is. It's 9 75s and 110. That's more money than my poor brain can handle. Let's say you saw 2 cases.
$785.
$785. So that would be a big day. $785 with them. Like Mike said, normally $300 to $600. It's not a tremendous amount, but if you do enough cases, it'll add up. Plus, they pay mileage, and if you spend overnight, they pay your lodging and they pay your meals and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean they do it according to whatever the federal employees' rates are, so it's pretty generous to me anyway.
I don't think they took that claim you turned in about having the student with you for the night. I think that was paying the student's expenses. I don't think they bought into that one.
Julie didn't either. So
it didn't work all the way around.
It worked anywhere.
Okay.
But the other thing, as we're just sort of spontaneous, I know you're wanting to work in actual teaching points here, but the other
why start now?
The other thing that I really like about Social Security hearings is that for the most part, after you review the file and you're sitting in on the hearing, you get to hear people's stories, and so you get an idea whether they're true or not. You get an idea about you get some insight into the lives of people with disabilities, and it helps you on several fronts. One is personally, like my medical knowledge of medical terminology and effects on functional abilities and all that has gotten so much better. Because I'll hear 40 different cases in a month where people talk about what the issues are that are presented, but also learn about jobs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
A lot about jobs, and even though we're not really seeing them, once you hear 3 or 4 people say the exact same thing about jobs. For example, certified nursing assistant.
Right.
CNAs, is what we call certified nursing assistants, are people who either in nursing homes or go into people's homes and do basic life care, but not usually anything very complicated. Some of them are semi-skilled jobs, some of them really aren't. But almost all of them, in the DOT, they're listed as medium jobs, lifting no more than 50 pounds. But almost all of them testify that they have to lift people, they have to lift patients, they have to pull them out of the bathtub. That's where most of them, a lot of them get hurt.
Hurt their backs.
Yeah, and so after you hear that a number of times, and I would say that 9 out of 10 CNAs that I have seen either in worker comp or in Social Security hearings all say they have to lift patients.
They all say that. They do say that. And they all talk about, you'll say, well, it's a job where you have to lift 50 pounds, and they look at you and they, no, I picked up 100 or more.
Yeah, Mr. Johnson weighed 180 pounds.
Yeah, I had to lift him out of the bed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, so they do testify that way.
So what we say is that, that the DOT, or it's listed as a medium job, but in this region it appears to be more of a heavy job.
Yeah. So, I don't say that, but
that's what I say.
You can make a case of that. I think you make a case.
I'm the one that's never been remanded, so.
No, I get your remands. They don't let you go back and testify on your own remands. I get those. I want to learn about
remands.
Yeah, remands.
You get paid more for remands. That's the other thing.
They do. They pay you more.
Like $20 more, or something like that per case. But that usually remands are a little bit tougher. I mean, you have to look a little closer because it's been kicked back by the appeals council for a specific reason, and so you kind of have the sense that people are looking at it a little bit more closely than the regular case. So
a lot of it has to do with McClanahan, Dr. McClanahan, the vocational expert testimony, and then we have to go back and counter that with something I'm not sure what. The other thing, though, you mentioned about you do learn about jobs, you learn about pay rates, because you just see so many of these people, and the jobs tend to be the same ones over and over that they do. So you learn a lot about that. There also, in Social Security hearings, are medical experts. They call psychologists medical experts. So there may be a psychologist, there may be a medical doctor, or both. And I love to kind of quiz them about medical facts because I learned a lot about little nuances of medical care that I didn't know.
Yeah, plus after the hearing you go, I got this problem with my wrist and it really hurts. Can you help me with this right here? And, like that.
And can I get another one of those prescriptions for those blue pills?
You got your prescription pad, don't you?
Yeah. Could you help me out there? Yeah.
Just a little sample or something. Yeah, there goes the Burger King guy.
Goes the Burger King guy again. I'm not sure what that's about. We'll try to get him on film for you here in a little bit.
Can I tell you while you're thinking, one other thing that I've gleaned from files in terms of classifying them as unskilled, semi-skilled, or skilled is pay rate. One of the things what I have found, I mean, as you just think about it, is that the more you get paid, the higher the skill level you would expect it to be. And that's not always true. But if I look at a job title and a description, I can't tell if it's unskilled, semi-skilled, or skilled, but they're getting paid, $15 an hour or something, they're more likely to be skilled workers or at least semi-skilled. Not always, but it's an indicator that maybe you need to look a little closer because the job titles don't always represent exactly what they do. And that's the thing. A person might give a job title that has nothing to do with what they're actually doing, and it doesn't match up with the DOT. So you have to really know what the nature of the work is. So that's why they write the descriptions in the file, but those aren't always accurate either. So you have to think on your feet, but it's a good training ground for it.
Sorry, I was trying to run the Burger King man down, and
let's get him on.
I thought we'd get him over here on camera, but we'll get him yet. He just hadn't quite come back. I would think if I was a new person, there I am. If I was a new person, I would want to know, like, how do you get started? What do you do? How do you get on? How do you get to be a vocational expert with Social Security?
Well, in Montgomery, you have to talk to Dr. McDaniel. You have a screening process.
Apparently, if I recommend you, apparently you just get right on.
But you make you can make an application through the I think it's the regional office. It ends up going to Washington.
Okay.
To the ODARS or the Office of Disability Adjudication. But rarely are you going to get picked in that way. I mean, it's kind of a, I would say that there's some political involvement. You want to get local support. It usually will help if you find out if they need VEs in your local office, vocational experts. And if they do, then you're more likely to get on that way.
I know one of our students got on here.
Burger King.
There goes Burger King. Hey, Burger King man. Hey. I think he's coming.
Wow,
Maybe we can get him over here, meet you guys. Dad, come over here just a second.
You turn the camera to him, I guess.
We're doing a podcast. Come get on our panel. We keep talking about you. Come say hi to these folks.
He's been riding by, so here's the Burger King guy. There he is.
There he is. Hey, he's here. Did you bring any burgers? Oh, okay. All right, Burger King man.
You'll get paid extra for this. So.
All right, we appreciate it very much.
Okay, so he's on a bicycle, so it's at least light work. God, I hope he's getting paid.
I hope so.
It's probably unskilled work.
Now, what makes it unskilled? The fact that you can learn it in less than 30 days, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's unskilled.
But the question is, how long is it going to take him to unlearn this job? You see him on a date on Saturday night, he's going to be walking this Burger King. I'm the king. It wouldn't work at home.
Oh, me. All right, I think what we're going to do is take a pause here, and we're going to come back in a second and be able to slip a few things in on this clip.
Bye. New clip.
All right, new clip. We're here. We're back. We just changed locations. We were talking about how to get on, and Mike was saying you go through the regional office.
Right.
But the truth for me was that I went to my local. What's the name of it again?
ODARS.
My local ODARS office, and I met with the it's called the HOCALs. What anymore? I don't know what
It's
that
the head
stands for.
judge.
It's the head judge. I met with the head judge. We basically talked about his son and the problems he was having getting him a job, and he said maybe I could help him. And after that, and I gave him about an hour's free service, and I tested him and told him about vocal rehab. Anyway, after all that, he had me fill out an application. He swore he had nothing to do with this, and within a month I was on. With our student who got on recently, it was more a matter of, we really need some vocational experts. Yeah, we're glad you're signing up.
Yeah.
The timing was perfect. I've had other people say I've applied 2 or 3 times and I didn't get on. So I think you just kind of have to be persistent and go to the local office and fill out an application.
And I would say that the Montgomery office has a lot of PhD level people, doctoral level
It
people.
does.
Most offices don't.
Right.
Our masters will do, and my guess is that there's bachelor's level people who have experience.
I've never heard of a bachelor's level person
may
doing
not be,
it. Maybe so.
I started when I had a master's degree in Savannah 25 years ago is when I first started doing it, and there was not one doctor, vocational person down there in that whole office. We were all master's level people. So
you don't rarely, once you get on, I don't know that anybody's ever really questioned my credentials. They've wanted to ask me a question or two about them, but I don't think anybody's ever challenged me on that.
No.
I guess you could be challenged.
Well, that's one of the cool things about it is that once you're a VE for the Social Security Administration, a vocational expert with them, then lawyers who want to hire you to do their work for their Social Security cases can do that, and the agency cannot then say that you're not qualified to do it because they've already qualified you to do it from their perspective.
Right.
And so, whereas, we make somewhere between $75 and $110 a case on most cases for the administration. If you do evaluation, you can charge whatever you want or whatever they'll pay. And I've charged as much as $800 for a Social Security evaluation, but usually I'm able to look at a file or staff it with them and do an abbreviated vocational evaluation and do it for less than that. I usually try to do that because the lawyers don't make as much money on it. So it works that way. But it's a shorter, sometimes I can do an evaluation in less than an hour if it's target specific. Meaning if I know exactly, if the only thing I need to do is get a dexterity test or something like that.
I've heard most of your evaluations are less than an hour. Is that not true? Oh, okay. I heard you really were quick. Whatever.
Evaluations,
Yeah. But one thing about it is it's back to something we said earlier that I really like about this. You get done with your day, you walk out of there, and that's it. I mean, there's no report to write. You've seen 6, 7, 8 cases, whatever you've seen. You're headed home, and at the end of the month, you turn in your paperwork, you get paid, move along. So it's a good kind of steady source of income.
Yeah, it's streamlined. I really like it.
I like that part of it a bunch.
Yeah. All you have to do is, I'd say billing for me takes less than an hour a month.
Yeah.
And I send it to them, and then usually within 30 days get paid. And they do it through a direct wire into your account.
Right. That's one of the problems I have with my workers' comp part of my practice is I keep waiting to get paid, and then I realize no one ever sent a bill because the idiot that does my billing just forgot about doing it.
So who does your billing now?
That would be me. And unfortunately, it would be me, but it happens that way sometimes. Any other Social Security considerations? Pleasant work. We have a group of experts. One of the things you mentioned was isolation. That's a problem in the whole workers' comp personal injury area. And here's an area where you're working around other experts. We have days at the Montgomery office. They'll be having 4 or 5 hearings at the same time. We'll have lunch together. Right. Listen to each other's stories and that kind of stuff. And it's helpful. It's
really, and some of the judges are really attuned to it. And like if you go, there's one judge, if you go out of town, not Montgomery, but say to Selma, we always finish by 11 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And so that gives us 11 until at least 1 o'clock.
Right.
To do a history tour of Selma or to have an extended lunch or whatever.
Or take the judge's car to get work done.
Yeah,
we do all kinds of. There's not much to do sometimes in Selma, so it's one of those things. Actually, a very, very pleasant place to work once you get the routine down. We were talking about spending 10 minutes getting ready. First hearings I did, I spent 10 hours on the first day. 10 hours on the first day. Now, that was covering 7 or 8 cases, but 10 hours. I was so nervous, and the judge, one of the reasons I was nervous, I heard about this judge, he chewed out everybody. He chewed out the VEs, the attorneys, the claimants. He was always on us about something. And what I realized later was he didn't mean much about that and he just ignored it. But, I was pretty scared the first time I did it. So I spent time getting ready.
Yeah, and I would encourage you, if you've never done it before and you do it, you get approved and you're going to do it. If you can, talk to the judge before the hearing.
Good idea.
And find out what he generally asks vocational experts. You're not allowed to talk about a case specifically ahead of time. And most judges, they have a little preamble to a hearing, and they'll talk about that, or they'll say, they might ask you, they say, we've never talked about this case, have we? And your answer would be no. But for example, if a new judge were to come into the Montgomery office, I'd want to know if he was going to ask for DOT numbers, because I generally don't have those just ready on everything that I do. But if he requires it, or wants it, then I'd be more likely to have it.
Right. You take your computer in those. I do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you have a program that has that DOT, like Easy DOT or Oasis or Mikey Mann's homemade program on the DOT numbers, a random generator. If you have one of those programs, you can use that during the hearing, right?
Plus, you can play Spider Solitaire while the hearing's going on. People think you're actually working real hard.
If they would just get wireless here, I could be doing my email.
That's
I could get some real work done, but they don't have. Well, one of the things that happens is the hearing's going, let's say, an hour. A lot of hearings about an hour. The judge asks the questions, so they ask all these questions of the claimant first, and then they let the attorney ask questions. And for some attorneys, that's another extended period of time. And then they ask the medical person something, and then they ask you. So you're sitting there 40 minutes or so while they're asking all these questions. And I've gotten pretty good about listening for what I need to hear and writing it down, and then getting ready for other cases or doing something else. So, it's in a way it's a little bit boring, but in a way it's not. If you because you think you've seen it all, and all of a sudden some case comes in that knocks you out. You go, whoa.
That's what's kind of fun about it. And then, like I said, just talking about in between the hearings, especially when there's a medical expert, because there's a lot of questions that I have about medicine that it's nice to be able to actually ask a physician.
Well, you need a lot of medical help.
Yeah, that's right. They never tell me the truth.
I know.
They never do. When you're in their office, they say this won't hurt a bit.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Oh, no, Joe. Yeah, and then here's the other thing. They hate to give you bad news, so they tell you something that they think you want to hear. Oh, it won't take long to heal from that, and a month later you're going, I'm still hurting.
Right.
Whatever. So it's good to catch them in that setting.
Mm-hmm.
They're a whole lot more humanistic, I guess, or human. Okay. What else? What else? What do y'all want to hear about? What do you want to know about Social Security? You want to tell us about a case? Do you have any interesting cases?
Social Security?
Yeah.
Nah.
No. I did. We had a lady that was the head of a religious department in her university, and she was having an affair with the president, and so it was all in the news because they fired this lady, which didn't make sense to me. They didn't fire the president. I didn't understand it. I don't know all the parameters. Anyway, it was a big deal in the news, and it was all this scandal about it. Well, she came in, and she had gone off the deep end, and she was having mental problems and afraid to leave her house and all this stuff. Very interesting case. Very interesting.
I was waiting for the punchline.
No, there was no punchline. It was an interesting case. A lot of the cases start looking the same. Person's got diabetes. They've got high blood pressure.
Everybody
their joints are the fibromyalgia. They got
Fibromyalgia is kind of a
fibromyalgia.
big one.
Yeah, that's a big one right now. And they come in and they just can't work. They can't work. Of course, the fact that their earning history shows they're working right now is a bit of a problem. But once they get over that, they can't work.
Well, I did do. I mean, I did an evaluation. It was a quickie. The attorney was a woman who decided a week before the hearing that she needed a vocational evaluation on this guy, and so I did it.
Don't you love that last minute stuff?
And by the way, if you have a personal knowledge of a claimant, you're not allowed to be there to be the VE in a case. So, in other words, like I can't do testing of the person for the plaintiff attorney and then testify in the case.
Right. You're not an objective witness to that point.
Right. But anyway, so I did testing on the guy, and there were great medical records showing that he was totally disabled. And
excuse me a minute. Yes, Judge, we're talking about that case right now. Yes, sir, we're putting it on the internet. Is that okay? No,
and the name is.
I don't think so.
Social Security number was. So anyway, I did the evaluation, and the guy, it was a slam dunk case. The guy was clearly disabled. There were at least 3 physicians' reports that disabled him. A week later, on the day of the hearing, of course, I was somewhere else. I got a call from Dr. Beatles, who was
another vocational expert.
Who was a VE for that particular hearing.
Right.
And he calls me and he says, Mikey, there's something you need to ask when you're doing your vocational evaluations. And I said, what is that, Bobby? And he said, you need to ask them if they're still working. Because in that particular hearing, the guy had bamboozled the court, his own lawyer, me, everybody else. The judge, in the middle of the hearing, somehow sniffed it out, Judge Bentley, and recessed, went, and when he came back into the hearing room, said to the claimant, he said, well, Mr. So-and-so, you said you're not working, and the claimant said, that's right, I'm not working, and I haven't worked for however many years. And he said, well, the judge said, well, that's funny, I've got your boss on the line right now. He said, you took the day off.
Ooh, you talk about feeling caught.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, I mean, even though the records, I mean, it's kind of a strange thing. The records clearly pointed to disability.
Yeah.
But the guy, when I did my testing of him, I didn't have access to his earnings record. The administration did.
Right.
And what happened was he put all of his jobs down except the one that he was still doing.
Of course.
And thinking that they would never figure that out, and they did. So
yeah, because they do get your earnings record. I mean, they can look up right to the moment what you paid in.
Right.
So they can figure that out.
But here's the thing. I mean, it's the interesting thing about the whole case, besides the fact that I found somebody totally disabled who was still working.
It's not unusual.
Was that there were several physicians who found the guy totally disabled.
Whoops.
Yeah.
So it just shows you one liar always back up another one, right?
I still got paid, you know.
Well, what's important here?
That's all.
You got to look at what what the ultimate objective is.
The bottom line is the bottom line.
That's right.
Yeah.
That you get paid.
I got paid. That was the bottom line.
Well,
and I got paid a lot more than Bob did to hear his fraudulent testimony. He only got paid $75. I got paid $700 or $800.
Excellent.
It was a good day for me.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like what you're talking about. You know, you not only do work there, but sometimes you make contacts and do work outside of that.
Exactly.
And the rates go up when we're outside of the Social Security situation.
Yes.
All right, Mike, man. I think that's probably going to wrap us up for today. What do you think?
That's a good thing.
I think it's probably time. Look at the clock on the wall. Is it lunchtime?
Here comes the McDonald's queen now.
I hate to tell you this, Mike, but I think the best part of this whole spot was the
Burger King guy. Y'all agree? I know you do. I know you do.
And next time it may be a whole hour of just the Burger King guy saying nothing, but he'll be riding his bike and it'll be a whole lot more interesting.
But you know the question I have for the students out there, out there?
Yeah.
Do you want fries with that?
Good question. Good question. Actually, why don't we see if we can get one of those masks? Maybe we can do the whole show with the man.
That's it.
I think that's our time for today. Next time we're going to be talking. That's what I thought. Next time we're going to be talking a little bit about working in the courtroom and what it's like and how the setup is, and get you ready for your first day of testimony. Join us next time on the Mikey Man and Randy Show.
Down.